entities and appreciate what the state is doing here that will allow us to do these improvements that are inflow and infiltration activities that will improve our plant performance at our wastewater treatment plant and reduce the amount of extraneous water getting into the system that will allow us to defer any possibility of our plant being overloaded farther into the future, and also avoid any kind of bad occurrences by overflows and leaks in our wastewater system. And this also addresses a major portion of the consent order requirements that the city and the state entered into some time ago, and requiring us to make improvements to our system. And we're doing them with very, very favorable terms, obviously. And I'll stop at that and recommend that the attorney review the sequencing of this project.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Mr. Brandenburg?
Yes, Mayor. My recommendation to the commission is that if you desire, you move forward with the loan agreement as Mr. Martin has described it. And although this is abundantly cautious, I would suggest that the city wait until you receive a signed copy of the loan back from the state and to proceed to the award, not the award, but the notice to proceed on the contract. So if you look at item number 3 on the sequence, it is for the contractor to acknowledge that the original bid is still good because that bid bond and the bid itself had expired. And the contractor has done that by signing the contract and submitting it back to the city along with a payment and performance bond. The city received those today. So once you receive back the signed loan agreement from the state, the city can go ahead and award the contract. That's why I'm saying that the contract today should be awarded contingent upon receipt of the signed loan from the state. Once that occurs, then you can sign the contract after your receipt of the signed loan agreement. And then lastly, you need to verify that all the contract documents, all the backup, and all the exhibits have been properly executed. And once that is done, issue the notice to proceed to the contractor. Now, this is all required because, as you all know, the city cannot enter into contracts if they don't have the money guaranteed. Now, the state has said you can go ahead with the notice to proceed now. However, from my perspective, I think the city needs a signed agreement with the state's authorized designated signatory on that agreement before you move forward and commit the city to the over $1 million in the contract. So I would suggest that you adopt all of these items tonight and instruct staff to move forward under this sequence in putting them in place.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brandenburg. Is there any questions from the commission to Mr. Martin or Mr. Brandenburg on this? Okay, all right. Resolution number 2020, and I also just wanted to also point out that we did not receive any public comments in regards to agenda item number 3, resolution number 2020-34. A resolution of the City of Clewiston, Florida, relating to the State Revolving Fund Loan Program, making findings, authorizing the loan agreement, establishing pledged revenues, designated authorized representatives, providing assurances, providing for conflict, severability, and effective date. The recommended motion is to approve resolution number 2020-34 and for city staff to follow the sequence that has been given by the city attorney from items contingent upon items 1 through 7, and that the contract is only to be rendered once we have received the signed grant loan agreement from the state of Florida. Any questions or comments on that?
No.
Okay, is there a motion to approve as read?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Rodriguez, a second by the Vice Mayor. Any further discussion on this or comments from Mr. Martin or Mr. Brandenburg? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Martin, agenda
Okay,
item number 4.
Yes, ma'am. And item 4 is the companion contract document, and you have all the information there. This, and I believe we have our consultant available if you have questions. I know the director is available as well on the phone if you have questions. But this would award the contract for phase 2 of the inflow and infiltration project to American Infrastructure Technologies Corporation. City Attorney just updated you that the proper documentation has all been received from this company. This would be for an amount of $1,067,000, and you have the documentation on that, the scope of work and so forth. And this, of course, would be a reimbursable item for the monies we just were awarded by the state. And of course, this resolution would be contingent upon receipt back from those documents and then proper execution before we would execute the notice to proceed. We will do everything we possibly can that would not be incur an obligation, such as having any pre-construction meetings and things of that nature, with the consent of the company and our consultant, to expedite this very, very timely and needed project. But we would not obligate and execute any contractual documents as recommended by the city attorney until we have all the boxes checked that he's put on his checklist.
Mayor, I've got a question.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I have a question, if I may.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Okay, so now maybe this is for the gentleman and for Dan. We've identified where the problems are at. So now, if briefly, it doesn't have to be, very long. What takes place in this second phase, and what are we to expect to see once this project gets started and gets underway? I guess the procedures or the method of operation, how just briefly of how that all comes together.
Julio, this is Danny, Utility Director.
Hey, Dan. Hey, Dan.
This second phase, what we're going to do is identify the areas of piping that might need liner, or the piping that may need replacing, that's collapsed or needs repairing. That'll be mostly what this phase will be taking care of.
Okay. My question is, Dan, I know we did the smoke test. What was that for? In correlation to the second phase, what was that for?
The smoke test, it basically we're doing manholes where we resealed all the manholes, clean outs. That was basically what we were looking for, and just piping itself. If it came up through the ground, that was a part. But that was and it did work. We probably cut about 300,000 gallons on the first phase.
Any estimate,
so basically,
Danny, I'm sorry, Commissioner, I'm just going to follow up with
yours.
Is there any estimate, Danny, yet on the potential for savings in terms of gallons of water we might be able to eliminate out of the system, or is it too early to project
They're estimating, Randy, about 600,000 to 700,000.
I thought that was the case. I just wanted to get that in the record.
Yep.
Thank you. Commissioner Rodriguez, were there any other questions?
No, basically, my final question on this is basically for Dan. I guess now we're going to go underground. Actually, now we're going to go in and see where these leaks are at. So the first phase really didn't identify we were doing the manholes that didn't identify the leaks. Now we're going to go underground and identify where the leaks are at, so we can repair them. Now, does the repairing come on this phase or
Yes.
phase 3?
Yes, it'll come on this. They'll run cameras in the lines to see if they're cracked or broken. That's basically what they'll be doing. And then they'll go back over those areas, and that's when we'll put the liner in. If it's, if it's the clay pipe and it's cracked and it's held, then they'll pull the liner through, and we'll be good to go.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely. Any other questions from the commission? We did not receive any written public comments, but at this time, we'll unmute if there's any public comments in regards to resolution number 2020-35. Are there any public comments for resolution number 2020-35? Just hit star 1 to unmute, please, if you're speaking. Star 1 to unmute if you wish to speak on resolution number 2020-35. Hearing no public comment, we'll go ahead and mute the lines again. This is resolution number 2020-35, a resolution of the City of Clewiston, Florida, approving the award of the Inflow Infiltration Project Phase 2 contract to American Infrastructure Technologies Corporation and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract. And this is based on the city awarding the contract after receiving the signed grant loan agreement from the state of Florida and following the steps outlined by the city attorney, Gary Brandenburg. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Peterson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second? Okay.
I have a second by the Vice Mayor. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Mr. Martin?
Yes, ma'am. Just one footnote on that item, as well as the contract award that was done at a previous meeting. We have received letters from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection approving the award of these two contracts, including the one you just acted upon and the one that was done at the previous meeting, that would both be reimbursed through these funds. For any balance of funding left over, the staff is working on developing a list of eligible items of improvements at either the plant or other portions of the wastewater system to utilize any balance of funding that would remain given the favorable terms that we're receiving from the state. And those would subsequently come back to the board for consideration later in the project. Okay. We're ready, Mayor. I'll move to item 5.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Also, we have been monitoring the various funding sources that have been made available in federal and state monies for the last several months. One of the categories is Community Development Block Grant funding for disaster recovery items. Item 5 in your agenda recommends that we apply for, and this requires it to be on the agenda given the implications for public hearings and so forth under the COVID-19 pandemic period. The Department of Economic Opportunity with the state of Florida is administering this grant program for the state, and they have established the procedures, and that's why it's on the agenda for tonight for your consideration and to receive any public comment on it that may come. This particular project is for $2.2 million to complete upgrades to the wastewater treatment facility, also as required by the consent order entered into between the city and the Florida DEP. You have in your agenda package a listing, and the staff can comment further on any aspects of this that you're interested in discussing tonight. It's been the city has looked at for quite a while at the future upgrading of our plant, and this would check the box for a number of those, including, for example, a backup generator that would be permanently stationed and adequately sized to operate the plant. That is one element that is in this, but we are using the resources of the Southwest Florida Rural Planning Council. They're doing the grant application, and their fees for administering the grant would be covered as part of the grant. There is no local cost and required match for this program, and it's before you to consider a resolution to authorize the application be submitted after you take any comment.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
I do have one question, Randy.
Go
On
ahead.
these grants from the DEO, are we only allowed one request for the city?
No, but that is the one that most closely fit the criteria for this disaster recovery. It was pretty limiting as to we're pursuing other grants under other categories of the CDBG money, but this is the only one that we believed met all the criteria in reviewing possibilities with staff and with the Planning Council. As you'll see, the next item is another category of these funds, and then later in the summer there'll be a new date for another a third category of these funds that we will be recommending at the next meeting that we apply for to stay on schedule with that. They're asking for applications in sequences on various portions of the funding, but this was the project that was deemed to be the most competitive and fit the criteria that was established by the granting agency, DEO, for disaster recovery. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. The only thing I would like to add is if we can keep it in the back of our mind, the culvert crossings that we have around towns, if any of these grants will help us with those, that we just keep our eyes on it.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. The consulting engineer who's online available tonight, Andy Tilton with Johnson Engineering, he and I have had discussions on that very topic as well as with our public works director, and we are looking at which ones of these categories might be a good fit for that project, and we're also collaborating with our partner, the water management organization for the canals, to see how that might work out. But that one is certainly one that we want to do some analysis, and I'll defer to Andy Tilton if he wants to make any comment on his thoughts on that, if that's okay, Mayor.
Yes, absolutely. Mr. Tilton?
Andy Tilton for the record. I'm in the process of looking at each of the culverts in the canals. There's about 30 or so of them, and coming up with those that need to be replaced or repaired. Neither process is a lot different in cost. It's just you have a lot less disruption if they can be lined. And so we will look at that as a possibility, and I should be getting something to the manager here in the next few weeks to cover those items.
Okay. Was there any other follow-up questions on that?
I don't have any.
Okay. Any of the other commissioners? Okay. Again, this is resolution number 2020-36, the resolution of the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, authorizing the mayor or designated representative to apply for CDBG DR grant funds and enter an agreement with the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. We did not receive any written public comments. At this time, we'll unmute the phones so that we can accept any public comments. Are there any public comments in regards to resolution number 2020-36? Not hearing any public comments, we'll go ahead and mute the lines again. Okay. Mr. Brandenberger, is there anything that you need to add to this? Or would like to
No,
add
Mayor.
on the
I
application?
believe the resolution is proper to proceed, and just would like to say that in the past, the commission has authorized these grant applications, at the same time authorized the mayor to sign the actual agreement. But as you know, we don't have the agreement, and so no one would have had a chance to look at it to see if it's sufficient. So I ask that these resolutions be modified and authorize the application only.
Okay.
But they already have been. They're appropriate as presented in your agenda.
Got it. Thank you.
And then, of course, a footnote to that, I concur with the attorney. These, if and when we are awarded, and I'm hopeful, we would come back to you with the formal agreement, similar to what we just did on the DEP project, for a formal action by the board.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comment from the commission? All right. The recommended motion is to approve resolution number 2020-3636. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by the vice mayor. Is there a second? Is that a second?
Second.
I have a second by Commissioner McGahey. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Mr. Martin?
Okay, the next item 6 is a different category of CDBG funding. This is the mitigation funding. These are the first time that the Community Development Block Grant Program has had funding of this nature, particularly with a favorable condition that you do not have to match the dollars or come up with a city share. This is another grant that we looked at, and this is specifically, this portion is specifically for facility hardening. And the one project we came up with is one that's near and dear to all of us, and that's, of course, resiliency, building more resiliency into our already excellent electric utility system. And we have an older transmission line referred to as the T1 that has had a number of failures during particularly extreme weather conditions. I'll defer to the utility director, Mr. Williams, to comment further on the experience with that. But this would be a smaller grant, but it is an important one for up to $143,000 in funding. And this would also, the application's being prepared by the Southwest Florida Rural Planning Council, and they would be reimbursed for administering the grant as a small portion of this funding. And I'll defer to Mr. Williams for any further information he wants to give on the benefits that this particular hardening of our infrastructure would provide. This was a very narrow category of funding, and it's one of the smaller categories, but we're very hopeful that we would be able to get this funding. And I'll defer to Mr. Williams for further comment.
Thank you, Randy. This is Danny, Utility Director. This is for the insulators, the remainder that we'd like to replace on these feeders. This comes from the McCarthy and it feeds the Clewiston substation. As you know, we had a stinger wire that had fallen, and we're going to replace that. Also, we're replacing the insulators because they're starting to slip. These lines have been out there and established since 1989, so it's well overdue, and hopefully this goes through and we'll be in much better shape.
Okay. Any other questions? Any questions from the commission or comments from the commission? Okay. This is a cost reimbursement grant. There is no required match. As was mentioned by the city manager, the Southwest Florida Regional Planning Council will work with the city to prepare the application for funding. We did not receive any written public comments. At this time, we'll unmute the phone so that if there's any public comment, we can hear them at this time. This is public comments for resolution number 2020-37. Are there any public comments at this time? Hit *1 to unmute your phone. Not hearing any public comments, we'll go ahead and mute the lines again. Are there any questions from the commission or any other comments in regards to resolution number 2020-37, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, authorizing the mayor or her designated representative to apply for CDBG MIT mitigation grant funds and enter an agreement with the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity? And that was Commissioner McGahee that had a question or comment?
I did. I was just, for Randy, who's going to actually write these grants?
In this case, and the previous one, the Planning Council is doing the bulk of the application on our behalf.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And that's being done as part of our membership in that organization.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments or questions from the commission or from staff, our attorney, or our manager?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Not hearing any?
Just a footnote, Mayor.
Yes,
this one would be treated exactly the way the city attorney described on the previous one. This only approves for the application.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to approve resolution number 2020-37?
So moved.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Peterson and a second by the Vice Mayor. Any further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Mr. Martin, agenda item number 7.
Yes. Under agenda item number 7, this is the next sequence of an important project that we started during the last fiscal year in the budget preparation discussion. We've been working towards getting an advanced metering infrastructure for our utility systems, our water meters, and our electric meters replacement. We talked about this extensively, the need for those meter replacements, so I won't elaborate further. We do have representatives from the Florida Municipal Power Agency on the line to go over a PowerPoint prepared for this particular section, which is phase 2. And that'll review what we did in phase 1, and we're now ready to go forward with step 2. We have contracted with FMPA for these services, and they have already done the legwork, and they'll comment further on that to acquire services from a consultant to help us through this very complicated process to make sure we get the best end product we can. So without further ado, I won't steal any of Naveed's thunder. You've had a couple of different presentations on this, but given that it's a contractual and the next piece of our contractual effort to move towards acquiring and installing this infrastructure within the very near term, we're ready to go out to bid and go on with the next phase. So I'll defer to Naveed to do the PowerPoint, and it's included in your agenda package. And I'll see if either Danny or another representative from Department, Lynn, want to introduce Naveed and make any comments.
Danny, are you available?
Yes, Danny. Yeah, I just want to, Naveed, he's gone above and beyond for the city of Clewiston and many projects. We're very thankful to have him, and we're thankful to have him here tonight. Again, like I said, he's done above and beyond for us, and he's been really a big part of this project also. So with that, Naveed, I hope you're there.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me clearly?
We can, Naveed, and I'd just like for the record to say that you are with FMPA and you're the resource and strategic planning manager for them, and you have presented the slides and are able to answer any questions we might have about phase 2. So we appreciate you being with us tonight.
And Mayor, for the purposes of our audience, these are available on the website for viewing by anyone that's interested as we go through it.
Thank you, Randy. Naveed?
Thank you very much, and I will try to work through the material as quickly as I can. And I apologize that we've had some printer issues this afternoon, and I'm not able to go with the slides specifically, but I have all the slides committed to memory. So I think if we move into the second slide, we wanted to just give you an update on the process that we've gone under. As you know, it's a phased process. But before we get into that, we wanted to discuss who Quanta Technology is. Quanta Technology is not the AMI services provider. They are our independent engineering company. They are essentially a blend between technical know-how and deployment experience and the consulting element of understanding the business case and understanding the processes that are going to change when AMI is implemented within the system. And if you move to the next slide, I believe there's some additional intelligence there on their national footprint. They've got a wide range of offices across the country. And the folks that we've been working with are a core team out in the Raleigh area. They've got hundreds of different implementation projects behind them and have successfully been on the other side of the fence in terms of being the lead systems integration individuals and been the lead in making sure that all of the existing IT systems that a given utility has speak properly to the new AMI system, including all the systems that are required to backhaul the data and make sure that you're able to put bills out for customers. So, again, the concept here is to retain their services and ensure that we have a phased implementation that goes as successfully as possible. So with that, moving into the next couple of slides, the main idea there is that AMI is a three-phase process. In the first phase, our main ideas were to make sure that we had an audit of all of your existing business processes, make sure that we had a filtration process to identify what firms would be best suited to meet your needs in terms of the global AMI solution, not just the software, but also the customer engagement, the aggregation, the data backhaul, and the change management that's required within the organization to be successful. We also developed a priority pyramid that identified the first layers of what you wanted to make sure worked well, and then working up from that, some of the higher level analytics and detailed customer initiatives that may be possible as AMI came to bear. And from that, we also developed a specification that is approximately 90% complete in terms of identifying all the nuances from a technical perspective and a non-technical perspective that any vendor that bids into the system to provide a solution is going to have to ensure that they meet to the best of their ability, recognizing that there's always a trade-off between functionality of the system and the price of the system, and that in the subsequent phase, we would address that. And so moving into the phase 2 scope, in the next couple of slides, we discussed the phase 2 scope, and really the idea here is that phase 2 essentially ends with a contract. And so we will take the 90% specification or 90% request for proposals, fully vet that, resolve some of the outstanding open questions and technical issues. We will also vet further some of the vendors. We will have detailed discussions with those vendors and understand their business systems and their value proposition more thoroughly, and the folks from the city that are going to be owning the system once it's in place will be participating with us in depth on that. And once we get through that, we will go through the process of submitting the RFP consistent with the city's procurement process and ensuring that your procurement protocols are properly followed. And Quanta Technology will spearhead that. I was part of the process fairly recently for one of our other members, and they were exceptional in terms of having a SharePoint site where all the RFP materials were housed and all the questions were answered in a timely fashion so that the vendors have access to the right technical expertise if they have questions about how the system is configured, or they need to, ask questions about expectations as they develop their proposals. And then at the tail end of the phase, we will have a professional review as well as a review committee within the city that will review the proposals so that we can determine who the best vendor is from a cost and non-cost standpoint and start to negotiate a contract with that selected vendor. So those are kind of the range of scope items that are bound within phase 2. And if you move to the succeeding slides, there is a table that's directly out of the Quanta Technology bid package for phase 2. And you can see the hours associated with the various tasks that encompass the scope, as well as the, not to exceed time and materials budget estimate. That doesn't include the travel expenses, but as you see there in the footnote on that slide, we expect that the travel expenses will be fairly limited. The phase 2 interactions are predominantly remote in nature, but we do have an option within phase 2 to, if the city elects to visit some customers or some of the shortlisted vendors to get a better experience as far as how their solution is working day to day, what challenges other customers have seen, and whether or not those other customers would recommend the vendor, obviously without the vendor present, to get a much more specific feel for those solutions before we, make a final decision. And I think there is some backup material on the contract mechanics towards the end of the presentation. The one thing that I'll remind the team on is that the relationships are in some sense layered. As Randy mentioned, for similar to phase 1, we have a letter agreement between FMPA and Clewiston that essentially says that Clewiston agrees to pay the charges for Quanta Technology. Clewiston will have an opportunity to review each invoice that comes in, as will FMPA, and we would seek your approval on a monthly basis for those expenditures. And obviously the FMPA team, as well as the Clewiston team, will work collaboratively together to ensure that Quanta delivers on their scope and to ensure that your costs are as low as possible by reviewing all the deliverables that come in and raising questions and supporting your review process wherever possible. So with that, I can open the floor to questions and happy to address any issues that you might want to talk about further.
Thank you, Naveed. Are there any questions from the commission? Mr. Brandenburg, do you have any questions?
No, I do not, Mayor.
Okay. At this time, I'll go ahead and open it to the public. We did not receive any written comments, but we'll open it to the public in case there's any questions for Naveed with FMPA or for the commission. Okay, at this time, are there any comments or questions in regards to resolution number 2020-38, the agreement between FMPA and the city of Clewiston regarding the city's AMI deployment phase 2 with a financial impact of not to exceed $141,676. Any public comments at this time or questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and mute the line. Okay, resolution number 2020-38, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, approving the Florida Municipal Power Agency Agreement for City of Clewiston Advanced Metering Infrastructure, AMI, Deployment Phase 2, and authorizing the mayor to sign. Are there any other questions or comments at all from the commission or for anyone on the line? Is there a motion to approve? Is there a motion to approve resolution number 2020-38?
So moved.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Peterson, and a second was by the Vice Mayor or Commissioner Rodriguez.
Vice Mayor.
Okay, thank you. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Naveed, thank you so much for being with us here tonight.
And Mayor, if I could add to your comment, I really appreciate his patience. We had one of our other consultants had to come earlier, so I apologize for holding Naveed so long, but I do appreciate his expertise.
Not at all, sir. That's our purpose here, so no problem.
Thanks again.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Martin?
With regard,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
With regard to item 8, agenda item report number 8, update regarding septic to sewer project with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I don't have anything to add to what's in the agenda as of this date. We've been awaiting the final agreement for the commission's consideration after review by the city attorney. We've had drafts, and they've been sent up the chain through the Army Corps, and we as yet have not received that. I will say that the clock is ticking and the window closing rapidly, so I will keep the board up to date, but nothing else to report tonight. We just do not have that document finalized and ready for your review.
Okay, any questions or comments from the commission? Okay, well, Randy, we look forward to hearing the update from the Corps of Engineers.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we're on to item 9, COVID-19 update and discussion.
I had shared some of my thoughts regarding this for the last several weeks with the board. During our last meeting, we had a discussion, and I got some good feedback from you. I have been communicating regularly on it, so I won't review the statistical information other than to say that our case total speaks for itself. We're now at 650 confirmed cases within Hendry County. And I'll keep providing those daily updates to the board as well as our staff, and then of course the Department of Health at the state level has a website that's robust and has a lot of information, and so I encourage citizens to follow the activities there and the numbers as they evolve. But that is what it is. But going forward, I'm still very cautious and very concerned, and highly recommend that our citizenry and businesses adhere to the social distancing guidelines and other practices recommended by the CDC and federal and state agencies going forward. The governor has continued to evolve the reopening process, and with those considerations in mind, I still am very reluctant to open up indoor facilities based on our cases and the trends. We have not, in my opinion, reached a point where we can open up everything and return to any semblance of business as usual. But I do believe for particularly outdoor facilities and activities that some changes are warranted based on the recent directives and actions taken by other agencies and in cooperation with our partners. Specifically, I would recommend that effective this Friday, unless the board has opinions otherwise, that we would reopen our picnic pavilions and other congregate picnic locations in city parks, with the exception, of course, of the Herbert Hoover Dike Recreation Area, which is currently closed for Army Corps of Engineer contracted construction activities on the dike. Also effective the 19th, reopen the Sugarland Park ball fields for community use. Again, we'll be working with users to recommend that they follow the guidelines, but I believe it is timely that we open those fields back up for activities based on the governor's recent releases regarding recreation and particularly outdoor recreation. Uh, this one I'm recommending that we reopen our splash pad facility. And part of it is there that I'm also recommending that we not open the pool for use this year. We have not been able to timely acquire the necessary lifeguards because of the delays. And given the timing, by the time we were to do that, most of the summer would likely be over. And there are other considerations. The social distancing and exposure there, I think, is much more challenging. And so I'm recommending keeping the pool facility closed for the duration of this season, but to reopen the splash pad facility, which is much easier to manage in terms of the concerns related to the virus and its spread. I would recommend that we defer any announcement for the senior center until it can be coordinated with the program providers and service agencies. They have not indicated a desire to reopen, but we'll be coordinating with them and making a subsequent announcement. I'm recommending that we cancel the summer program. Any plans for activity this year? We waited and to try to partner with the schools and with the YMCA and the county and other agencies, but it has evolved into so late in the season for that program that I believe it, and it is another big challenge to meet the guidance that's recommended for that. And I feel like negotiating a contract at this juncture would likely be a very short-lived success. So I'm recommending we cancel the plans, and that way the community will be aware and they can seek other alternatives. I do recommend that we begin planning, and I've already started doing that with our librarian to and work with the other county branches within the county. We're doing a very nice agency grant donation funded summer virtual camp through the library at all of the branches in the county, and ours included. So I encourage people to go to the website and see what's available for that. But I do think in the very near term, we should be able to do something in terms of a phased opening of the facility so that patrons can come in and get books, very limited number at a time, possibly with appointments, and then keep the facility closed most of the time for just anyone and everyone to come in, to try to limit the numbers in the facility, and that's for the benefit of our patrons as well as our employees and their safety. But I would like to announce that subsequent as well once we've worked out all the details, particularly with the partners and the other libraries, to see if we can try to have a uniform plan for all of the ones in our cooperative library group. I would recommend that we continue the safety precautions at the golf course pro shop. We've been very successful there in implementing and adhering to guidance. They typically would be having a June golf camp. It was our mutual decision at staff level in conjunction with the director and to cancel that camp given all the factors, but allow a late July camp. And I think information was just recently sent out about that, and we already have a considerable interest. But that camp will be structured and sized appropriately to ensure that we can meet the recommended guidance and guidelines and all the safety procedures. And it's hard for me to do, but I recommend that we cancel the July 4th fireworks activity for a number of reasons. I've been following what our sister communities across the state and in the region and other states are doing in this. It's a mixed bag. But I've also been very concerned that if we have this activity, that it would be very difficult to control the numbers of folks involved and do much in terms of limiting it. Also, there are other factors that I won't elaborate on unless I have specific questions. In terms of our facilities, Indoor, I recommend that effective July 1, unless something changes between now and then of great significance, that we begin scheduled activities and rentals of our youth center. And similarly for the John Bory Auditorium, opening that up for rentals again. Do that beginning July 1st for the month of July. And if you have any questions or comments, those are my recommendations with regard to that. Lastly, as for reopening our public city facilities and buildings where our staff is housed, we've continued to work and been working with customers through the different items. We still have a few improvements that we've ordered and been on back order for things like sneeze guards and so forth to protect employees and customers and patrons. I'm not prepared tonight to finalize the date for reopening those facilities, but I intend to work with the department heads and after getting feedback from members of the commission, come up with a specific opening date. I anticipate that being in July, and just need a little more time to make sure that we get all of those safety precautions in place. We finished some of them in some of the buildings, but we still have a few to go. And I'll stop and answer any questions, Mayor and Commission. I appreciate the confidence you've given in me to make these, and I hope I serve you well in terms of being not overly cautious, but taking the proper caution given the numbers and our inabilities thus far as a county to control the spread and see a proper decline and flattening of the curve, a true flattening to where we're seeing a decline. And I'll answer any questions.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and start, Randy. In regards, I know that the state of Florida just put up a pediatric testing information.
Correct.
And the test results are at 25% for Hendry County, the positivity rate for the children that are being tested. And so I have a concern about the splash pad. I know that we need to do something, but I'm concerned with maybe the number of families that might be gathered there. And I know we don't have someone there monitoring that. So I just wanted to mention that as a concern. Not that you have to answer me tonight. I just wanted to mention that. That's my first comment. The second one, virtual camp. I love the idea, and I'm thankful that the libraries are working on that. I think it's very, very important. On the rentals, when we get to that point, if we're still in phase 2, there's still some requirements for that, and will we follow those requirements on the rentals?
Yes.
Okay.
We would be, I think, obligated to.
Okay. And then I know that I think we all received, and just for the public, I know that the city staff everybody's going to be tested tomorrow. They have opportunity to be tested tomorrow.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
I know the county staff as well. They just did that in LaBelle today, if I remember correctly. They did the testing in the west side of the county, and they're going to bring the testing to the east side of the county for city and county staff and families.
Correct. That'll be tomorrow, and we've notified all the departments and staff last week of that schedule, and I'm hoping for a good turnout from all of our staff. I've encouraged all our departments to promote it.
Right. And then the other question is that my last comment is, we mentioned about that we're still in phase 2, and I know that for us, there's still not that marked decrease of case numbers on a trend of a 14-day trend. And that still is a concern for me, and I know that you're tracking that. I just want to make sure that we still remind everybody the importance of being cautious, and that they need to follow the guidance, especially when folks are out gathering together, even if it's outdoor, small groups. We can't mandate everything, and I don't want to. But I just want everybody to be, extra cautious, because our cases still continue to go up. And so the trends for the future, Randy, when you get some updates from the Department of Health, especially when we hear about resurgence, will you give that information to us so that we're aware of what they're saying as far as what they see for a trend going into the school year, as well as we begin a new season. I think those are important considerations for us.
Yes, ma'am. I plan to do that.
Thank you. Rest of the commission? Is there any additional comments?
No, Mayor.
or questions? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
Mayor, it's Julio. I don't have anything else to add. I think you and Randy explained that very well. And I agree with you. The splash pad, I would take a second look at it, and maybe see if that's what we really want to do at this point. But I totally agree with the other comments that you and Mayor and Randy put forward, and I appreciate the work that's been, because it's very important. And I can't stress enough that we still have to do the face masking. We still got to do the social distancing, and we got to follow all the CDC guidelines because we're not out of the woods yet. Like I said last meeting, I think probably worse today than we were when we met the last time. So just want everybody to be careful and be vigilant and follow the instructions from the local, national agencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rodriguez. Any other commissioner? Okay. All right. That is our COVID-19 update and discussion. Moving on to old business. I know each of us have a spreadsheet. Randy, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, ma'am. I'll be glad to answer any questions, any of the items, but we're trying to work through the list and make progress.
Okay.
I have a few questions on the old business.
On the old business, go ahead.
The first responder interlocal agreement with the county. Have you heard anything on that, Randy?
Yes, sir. And under my manager's report, I'm going to give you an update and give you some information on that. I've just had a recent conversation with the county administrator, and I can update you on that, if that's okay.
Okay. Yes, sir. That's fine. And the power cost adjustment for the COVID-19, what was the amount of money that was discounted this month?
We did not do it. We only did it that 1 month and have
yes, that was for
not
last
done
month,
it again. Yeah, we have not done it again, and it was, I don't remember the exact number. I'm thinking it was, Danny Mike can help me out if he's still online, in the 70 to 80,000 or somewhere in that realm. May have been a little more than that. Danny, do you have
somewhere around there, Randy, but I'll get the numbers for you, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. Now,
okay.
one good news item when I give my report, it's very possible that we may be reimbursed for that under the CARES Act, but I'm not going to count my chickens too early before they hatch. But there is a possibility we may be reimbursed, and that would be nice. But I won't bank on that until we have further discussions.
Yes, sir. And I've got two more. The next
Go ahead.
one's for the city attorney on the ownership of the Clewiston Canal, if there's any kind of updates on that.
Yes, sir. So we've determined that the canal was dedicated for navigation to the United States of America, and we have put an inquiry in to see which agency of the United States would handle any request with regard to it. That inquiry has gone to the Corps of Army Engineers. We have not heard back yet. Now, when we look back at the map that initially established that canal right away, it appears that it was a dedicated easement, not fee simple ownership. So the ownership, therefore, would be on the folks that initially dedicated those portions of it, and there were 3 such parties on that initial map. So it would be a matter of searching the heirs. Now, to the issue of whether or not it's an easement or a dedication of fee simple title, I don't think that answer can be arrived without there being some sort of litigation, a quiet title action over the issue, which would be quite costly, and I certainly could not recommend it for the city at this time. So that would be the extent of my report to date, and as additional information comes in, I'll advise the commission.
Okay, thank you, Gary.
Thank
And Vice Mayor, you had
And-
another question?
Yeah, the last one was on Ventura. Where are we at with the engineering, and when will it go out to bid?
The funding, as you're aware, will become available in the next state fiscal year, which begins July 1. The engineer and I just have recently discussed this, and he has essentially completed his estimate of cost, updating that. And I anticipate we will have an update for you on the project and a tentative schedule at the July meeting of the commission.
Okay.
But I will go ahead and prompt you. His estimate exceeds the available funding, so we will be looking at. We as a staff have been looking at what that's going to necessitate in terms of the scope of the project and so forth. Looking at ways to bring it closer to within his estimate of including all budgetary sources. But we'll update you on that in July as well.
Okay, has there been any discussion with DOT about the estimates were going to be higher than what we were received?
We haven't had a specific, because he just finished updating the estimate, but we will be. We've made him aware that we believe the project's going to exceed available funding, and so our anticipation would be once we have the bids and know how much we're short, we will go back to DOT to see if there's any additional funding available to supplement what was awarded in the grant.
Okay.
Okay, under old business, is there any other questions or comments from the commission? I do have one on the vacant building ordinance review. Where are we specifically on that review with the P&Z or the CRA?
We're planning a P&Z meeting and inviting the CRA again to that meeting. They were polling the members. I don't believe, unless Travis is online, that we've set the date for that. That'll be announced really soon, though, and they will be discussing that ordinance as a priority item on their agenda at that meeting, which will be sometime before your next meeting.
Correct,
Okay.
Mr. Martin. We have not set the date yet. We were still holding out for Stantec, the contractor for U.S. Sugar, for the modification to the master plan. If they don't get it to us to the end of the week, then we'll go ahead and set the date for that virtual meeting for P&Z.
But that's the other priority project that's on there, is a modification to that PUD, Plan Unit Development application, that we're expecting for the U.S. Sugar-owned properties.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis.
Okay, no other questions or comments or any updates under the old business from the city manager or the attorney or any of the city staff or the commission? Not hearing anything, we'll move on.
I do have one comment, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Travis Reese. There has been a change in the state law regarding fireworks. Senate Bill 140 has passed, and that allows for the use of consumer fireworks, which includes bottle rockets and firecrackers, 3 days a year. That's New Year's and the 4th of July and New Year's Eve. Now, that will not affect the city of Clewiston. City of Clewiston has its ordinance, do you recall, we put in place in September of last year. So there may be some confusion out there as the fireworks dealers and vendors come online saying that it is legal now to do that. That is not the case within the city limits.
So our ordinance supersedes state law?
That is correct. The ordinance does not take away any municipal or county ordinances that were in place prior to that. And it also does not take away if there's any covenants and homeowner associations that currently have it. There are some restrictions that say that the homeowner association cannot simply ban just the fireworks. They could still pass covenants that require noise restrictions and such, but not specifically. That restriction is not for cities and counties, and we currently, our ordinance does not allow for that. So just for everybody's clarity that we're not going to have a meeting before the 4th, that is the case. So I just wanted to make sure that the commission understood that.
Yeah, the city attorney may want to add to that, Mayor. I don't know if he has anything to add.
Okay.
No, we may have to, in the future, add additional clarification to that ordinance, but for right now, I have nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. I think that, Travis stated it so well. If we can make sure that we put a public notice on our website and share that also on social media, that everyone understands what the city ordinance states. Mr.
Yes,
Martin?
ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you. Any other questions or comments from the commission under old business? If not, we'll go ahead and let our city attorney make his comments, please.
Mayor, what I wanted to bring to your attention is that the emergency declaration with respect to quorums present at city council meetings, I believe expires on 7/7. And unless it's extended, the city will have to make arrangements for your next meeting to be in person.
Okay. Thank you. I think, Mr. Martin, you've already looked at that?
Yes, unless, as the attorney points out, with some change comes from the governor's office or the state, our planning will be towards an in-person meeting unless conditions change.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And we
Mr.
have
Brandt?
an option. Then I
Right.
would go back to y'all for further input.
Thank you. Mr. Brandenburg, anything else?
No, that's all, Mayor, unless you have any questions for me.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll see if when the commission gets their comment time, we'll let them ask questions at that time. Mr. Martin?
Yes, I have a couple of items. One, referencing the question about discussions with the county regarding our contractual agreement, updating it with the county for fire services. A county attorney is drafting an updated contractual agreement for our consideration. We've had several meetings and discussions on it over the months. One of the key provisions that I want to update you on tonight that will be reflective in those agreements, they are trying to get as much in terms of the document parity as possible in similarly situated circumstances between the different agencies that provide fire protection within the county. But in our specific case, the commission will recall that last year, shortly before I came, or sometime before I came to Clewiston, there was a discussion ongoing with the volunteer fire department here in Clewiston regarding benefits for our volunteer firefighters. Excuse me. We've been having discussions with the county since. Unfortunately, last year the timing was such that when it was discussed, the county was in a position that it was too late for them to make, or it became too late for them to make a change or consider any change in the MSBU rate, which funds the fire for East Fire, as they refer to it, and West Fire in the county. To thwart that this year, we've been having discussions with the county administrator, and as I've previously reported to the commission, the fire, we've received additional correspondence from the volunteer fire department, their safety committee. We've vetted that and been working with the county, and in anticipation of making sure that sufficient funding is available within the fire MSBU for East Fire, the county administrator has discussed with me and plans to recommend tomorrow night to the Board of Commissioners that they establish an up to a 15% increase in the MSBU to take care of funding any agreed upon details of enhanced benefits that would evolve out of our forthcoming budget discussions and the county's budget discussions in the next several weeks. But to advance notice the public of the maximum that will be considered, the administrator is going to recommend to the board an up to 15% increase in the MSBU. And I wanted to comment tonight so that we could give the county input on that. If you're so inclined, I would recommend that the commission endorse them considering establishing that up to. It cannot exceed that, but it can certainly be anything less than that. The two main considerations is additional funding for benefits that as necessary and as determined by the upcoming budget cycle. Specifically, we're looking at cancer coverage and options for that, as well as enhancing the accident policy that we currently have for the that covers the volunteers, enhancing that benefit so it's more robust and would closer meet the need if any member of our department were injured on duty. The impacts I can give you of that, I've shared some of that detail with you, but the other point I would make is this would not be an obligation until the budget is actually adopted sometime later in September or whenever, and it would actually be set. The second element that's important for consideration is also goes to our contract discussions, in which we want to try to establish an element of capital funding reimbursement. That has been sort of hit and miss over the years, I guess is the term I would use, is the way it's described to me, and not very significant annual consideration towards the bona fide capital cost for capital replacement of some of the major equipment items. So we hope to set aside funding beginning with this fiscal year coming that would be available for capital needs to meet our 5-year capital plan that we're developing and will be presenting to the city commission as well as the county commission looking forward for replacement of some of our major capital items such as trucks and fire apparatus and things of that nature. The impact of the maximum increase of 15% that would be considered if this recommendation is accepted and approved by the county would generate a maximum cost increase of $4.61 per year for a residence in the eastern portion of the county that's covered by the East Fire. And the maximum for a business, major business, large business and industry category is the max. It would be $131.63 per year, assessing those properties. Other categories of businesses, smaller businesses, are obviously significantly less than that. And I've got that detail, but at this point, the recommendation would be that you give favorable response to the county commission that they keep this option alive so that we can consider doing these two very important things of enhancing the benefit for our volunteer firefighter first responders and create the beginnings of a capital reserve fund within the funds that are collected for future capital replacement items. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. Is there anyone from the commission that is not in agreement? Okay, Randy, I think that you can share with them that that we're we look at this project favorably, the increase at 15%, and we would add our endorsement to it. I know that this is a very important discussion we had last year, and I'm glad to see that the city and the county, and you and the county manager have worked on this to get us to this point.
And again, as we evolve through the budget, you'll see the specific cost, and it could be that it's 10%. It may not even be that much. It may be 12%. But I think it will be fairly close to this maximum if the commission will approve it, the Board of Commissioners, because we really need to start that capital reserve building that has never been adequately funded, in my opinion, in the formula that's been used over the years since this was begun. So I will report that to them at their meeting tomorrow evening, and hopefully they will look favorably upon at least preserving this option through the budget cycle and until we can all flesh out specific numbers and agree upon them, and bring back a formal agreement with the county, updated fire agreement for service.
Okay, and then you'll give that to the city attorney as soon as you get it from the county.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, and if there's no other comments on that, just briefly, I wanted to make a couple other budgetary comments. You'll hear a lot, and have already seen the comments from the governor, and I've been on conference calls with the county for the last several days since Friday discussing this, and I will be over the next week. The CARES Act funding that's related to the COVID-19 actions of Congress to allocate funding, it's finally trickling down to smaller counties and cities in Florida. The discussion about available funding to reimburse us for eligible costs and help our budget situations out. It isn't as flexible as everyone had hoped. We hoped there would be a provision, but it hasn't been thus far for replacement of revenues lost. That may or may not transpire in some future action, but the monies that are available now, we're actively discussing, and in the next few days I'll get more information, and we'll keep the board up to date on how we could possibly benefit from these dollars. Obviously, the expenses we've used for overtime and facility improvements to make our buildings safer, all of those are eligible activities. But we're looking very creatively at all the ways that we possibly can leverage these dollars to offset any shortfalls that we have in our budget and offset expenditures that we've incurred and will incur through the end of this calendar year related to our responses and activities in this emergency. And I won't go any further tonight on specifics, but I'm working hard with the county, and we've had really good discussions about that. But the funds are being channeled through the county, and the city would then be eligible, along with agencies like the school system and the hospital and other state and local agencies that are affiliated in dealing with the response here. So I'll keep you posted. And lastly, on the budget, the finance director and I have crafted, she's drafted a preliminary tentative budget calendar. I'll be communicating with several of you. Some of you have already given me the dates you would not be able to meet in the near term. And we'll be putting together a schedule and getting that out to you real soon so you can put it on your calendars for development of this budget cycle coming forward for the fiscal year 21. That will begin in October. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from the commission in regards to Mr. Martin's update? Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and start with Commissioner McGahee. For any comments?
I don't have anything, Molly. Thank you.
You're welcome. Commissioner Peterson?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Vice Mayor?
I don't have anything.
Thank you. Commissioner Rodriguez?
Mayor, I got a couple of things here I want to go over,
Yes, sir.
if I may.
Absolutely.
The fireworks, because we're not having it out in the park. Obviously, the uptick that we're going to have in our neighborhoods are going to be greater. You're going to have more fireworks going off in our city, in our city streets. So I recommend that. Obviously, I want everybody to have fun. I'm not saying that, but I want everybody to be careful too, that we need to be aware that there's going to be quite a lot more kids in our streets on the 4th than there normally is, because they would be out at Sugarland Park or somewhere else. So I just wanted to bring that up, and I'm sure everybody, I'm sure some other people have, the chief has thought about it, and Randy has too. So I just want to make sure that we have a safe day and a safe night.
I agree. Thank you.
And number two is a little bit on that CARE Act that Randy touched on, and I just want him, and I know he is, to stay engaged with the county, because talked to my sister yesterday. Said that Broward got over $100 million from the CARE Act, and there's 30 now. They're fighting with the 30 cities there in the Broward area, because the county said we're not gonna give you any of this money. So hopefully that doesn't happen here in our city. But that's happening.
If I could share with you a quote that the league, we had a league webinar with the Florida League of Cities today on this very topic. And the governor's comments when he did his announcement of these 1.275 billion that's available for this use in Florida to the counties that are below 500,000. His quote is, "All counties, including counties that already receive direct payment from the U.S. Department of the Treasury, should provide funds to municipalities located within their jurisdiction on a reimbursement basis for expenditures eligible under the CARE Act and related guidance." I assure you we're going to push hard, and I don't believe it'll be a fight on our level. I've gotten excellent comments and feedback from our county administrator, and I will be in attendance at tomorrow's Board of Commissioners meeting and make comment on that as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Randy. Mayor, I got a couple more items.
Absolutely.
Team, this is probably for Randy to answer, is when we open up Sugarland Park, are we going to open up for team sports, or is that just for if a father and a son want to go out, or a daughter want to go out and kick the ball around?
No, I think it would be all the above. I think in talking with our partners, LaBelle's going to do the same thing if they hadn't already. So I believe since they're outside and these activities of baseball, softball, league activities, if they're interested, I know there's some travel ball teams around for practice. They've already been asking, so I anticipate that's going to be the bulk of it. But at this point, unless we are certainly going to encourage them to follow all the guidance. But I believe we're ready to go for all the above.
Okay, thank you. And also, Mayor, that I think I talked to this before on relaxing the signages along 27 and all the different type of business that we have because of the coronavirus. I would recommend that we continue relaxing the signage, the open sign or any other information that particular business wants to display in a nice way that they're open for business. I would like Randy and Mayor and maybe code enforcement on that we continue relaxing that. I think we talked about that. So
my intent would be that we would continue under the same guidance we're operating under now for that and other items, as long as we're in an emergency declaration, which I have not raised that question and asked you to rescind that order because I do not want to jeopardize any potential reimbursement we have. Most entities have continued that for that reason, to stay within that emergency declaration. I think given our numbers, we certainly can justify the reasons for that. So my expectation would be we would continue that for the duration of at least that emergency declaration, which could go on for months.
Right.
More.
And also, I would just want to add to that, that we're still under phase 2, and there's no determining point in conversations that I've heard on phase 3 reopening. But even at phase 3, we're not completely back to normal. So until we're back to normal, I think that we should be able to continue to try to help our businesses have a business.
I agree.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And the last thing, and I mean, I don't need a response from this, but I'm still seeing 8, 9, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds driving golf carts all over town, all over the north side, basically. So I don't know. The other day I saw a kid. He must have been probably not more than 6, 7, maybe years old. Well, he was driving it in his yard, but he had another kid beside him, and I said, I prayed that nothing would happen, but I'm still seeing a lot of minors without license for sure, driving around town with 4 or 5 of them in the cart. So, I mean, I know that I've talked about this before, but whatever it's worth, I just don't want to see anybody hurt. You don't have to look very hard to see these kids riding around town all day long and into the dark. So, for whatever it's worth, I just don't want to see no child get hurt and get in an accident under our watch. So whatever that's worth. Thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
Okay. And just to follow up from what you mentioned about the golf cart enforcement, I think if we see something, I think it would be important for us to let the police know. I mean, there's only usually 2 to 3 officers on at a time, and we need to be able to be their eyes and ears and let them know, or contact Mr. Martin. I know I have lately. But Gary, on private property, do we have any enforcement on private property? Gary, are you there?
Did we lose him?
Yeah, I am here. On private property, you do not have that authority, but on the city streets and sidewalks and right-of-ways, of course you do.
Okay, all right. So I would encourage everyone, if they see anything that's concerning or it's open violation of our on city right-of-ways or sidewalks, property, that we let Mr. Martin know, so that he can also have a pretty good idea of what might be going on in the community that not all of us are seeing. Mr. Martin, is there anything else on that?
No, ma'am. I got the message.
Okay. All right. Just to make sure there's not any additional comments from the City Commission. And the only comment I have is just I really want to thank city staff. I know that most employers and their employees, it's very unusual times. We've come through some really tough times as a community, but I'm thankful for our city staff who continues to be there every day, every weekday, and on weekends and on call to make sure that the business of the city continues. And I really appreciate that, and that is just a big thank you to each of them and the work that they're doing, because I know that as we go into hurricane season, that there's additional responsibilities that our city employees will have to take on as we prepare for this hurricane season, coupled with this continued work in keeping the city going during these unprecedented times. So just a big thank you to city staff. Randy, if you'll relay that, I would appreciate it.
Thank you, and I concur. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's not any other comments before the City Commission tonight, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second? Is that a second?
Second.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned. Everyone take care. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Be safe.
Thanks.
Conference recording has stopped.